All right, so day 2 of the draft, all the way underway here. I might not have videos for every pick, but I'm going to have videos for some of them, including Logan Hall going to my team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Logan Hall was one of my guys, you could say. You know, I'm a really big fan of Logan Hall, is what I'm saying. I think he was a really underrated prospect. He's a very unique player. We're going to get to that in the film of kind of his uniqueness and why I think he's such a fascinating prospect, but one that I like. So let's get into the film, talk about what I like about him, and then at the end, we'll talk about kind of the scheme fit and all that fun stuff. So let's start off with this play. This is kind of a good example of really what he can do. This is, one of my favorite plays from him that we saw last season, and it really just goes to show just the unique style that he has. Because again, it's worth mentioning, he is certainly an undersized interior defensive lineman, but that does not mean he can't rush the passer. In fact, he's one of the best pass rushing interior defensive linemen in this draft class. He might be the best. Right when this play begins, watch how he is going to try to use power to win, which again is kind of something you think is maybe like, okay, you're really using power to win? You're undersized. Shouldn't you be using like, footwork or things like that? Well, guys do this, especially pass rushing interior defensive linemen. This is how Aaron Donald will get some of his wins. Like, it does happen. Not to say he'll be Aaron Donald, but again, I can see some stylistic similarities. Anyways, the way this play is working is you see how he has both his hands kind of on the chest area of that guard, and will he be able to get the hand placement here consistently versus NFL level guards? Like, no, of course not. But he will at times, I assume, and watch how he can just dominate from here. I mean, look at him just overpower that guard, reach out, and get the sack. That's a highlight reel level play if I've ever seen one, and that's really cool. Again, will he be able to do this at the NFL level is a fair question, but strength tends to carry over actually pretty well to the NFL level. Guys who are strong in college and can do this stuff in college typically end up being pretty good pros. Stuff like this is just a great example of his hands. I mean, his hands are fantastic, and that's one of the big things I look for when evaluating players is how good of hands do you have. I think a lot of people kind of view it as like, okay, I want to see the physical tools. How big and strong and fast are you? But the reality is football is a technique sport when it comes to the defensive line. Obviously, all those other stuff, really matters as well, but being able to use your hands to give yourself an opportunity to get pressure, that's something you want to see in a guy, and that's what Hall definitely has. Watch how right when this play begins, you see how from this spot, the guard not really giving much of anything away. You don't see it where his hands aren't stretched out yet. There is no contact. Watch the move that Hall is going to pull off, where he's going to really watch his right arm. Look at him get this swim move to where at that point he's pretty much unblocked and he is able to again run over and get the sack. So, and he can win in a condensed space. He can win in a phone booth, which you kind of need for an interior defensive lineman to do against, guards. Is there's typically not that much space, although we are getting more and more space. There's more space now than there was years ago. So because of that, I think that kind of means that this is a very important position, and he's someone who, quite frankly, I think should have gotten way more hype than he did in this pre-draft process. Another thing, something like this, so you see that it's actually going to be a tackle who is blocking him one-on-one on this play, but that's how this works. And Logan Hall is a good first step. He is pretty explosive, and you're going to see that on this play. Watch him just get that inside leverage to the point where the player who's trying to block him is trying to block him, it's just a tough spot. He doesn't have the hand placement that he wants because of Logan Hall's good first step. He's in a position where for 69, the tackle who's blocking him, if he does try and finish off this block, what realistically is going to happen is he could get a holding penalty. So you're just in such a tough situation. Again, Hall is able to, because of that quick step, get over, get to the quarterback, and get the sack. So just really good stuff. I mean, these are how you can get consistent pressures, and he gets consistent pressures consistently. Something like this is also an awesome one where I'm just going to let it play out, but watch what happens. So you see the block, that's the player who's blocking Hall on this one. And watch how Hall gets that right hand and it's just going to toss him off to the side. He eventually does get to the quarterback for a sack. Maybe that part a bit fluky, but the ability to use his hands and use his power to toss players to the side, that is very much not fluky. That is just what he can do. So I care about the win. He got a sack afterwards, and that was cool too, but I care about the win more than anything. And then finally, something like this. So what's going to happen here, again, it's a one-on-one matchup, and it's a bit of what we've talked about already. This is, again, him using his hands to be able to get some pressure. As you see, watch him be able to pull this off pretty well, right? He, again, gets that right hand over the guard to where he wants to, so that way he can hopefully get past him. He does, in fact, get past him. He generates the pressure, and when you get pressure up the middle, I mean, you can't really do much as a quarterback. You're pretty much screwed at that point. There's not really a lot you can do if there is consistent pressure coming from the middle, you know? Edge rushers, obviously, yes, they get more pressures typically and more sacks, but you can at least protect yourself. You can put a halfback or a tight end over there, whereas it's just harder to do that up front. So yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, so he's this undersized guy a little bit, you could say, like, given the technique he typically plays, but at the same time, he's someone who, like, has been very effective at that spot. I don't think you have to make him an edge rusher. I think some people are going to say, let's make him an edge rusher. I think he might be good at that, but to me, it's like he's already good at a position. Let's let him be that position, but maybe there's some versatility there, which I could definitely see Todd Bowles valuing here. But for Logan Hall, he is someone who I could definitely see him as a defensive end in a 3-4, which the Buccaneers do. I mean, they mix it up a lot. Bowles never does the same coverage twice, it seems like, but they do like to play a lot of 3-4, so having him as a 3-4 defensive end could be very good. He's kind of like a William Goldson type role, or, you know, even a Sue type role that we saw. It does seem like obviously that's going to be the replacement, but I think he could be really good, and he's a really underrated player. He can pass rush from the inside, which I think they could use. They could use a guy like that next to Vita Vea, who's going to take on double teams, give Hall the one-on-one matchups. That could be really exciting and really fun to watch. And like I said, it's not the end of the world if you just have him stick outside either and play some edge because, you know, yes, they have Joe Tryon-Soyinka and they have, you know, obviously Shaq Barrett, but typically you need more than 2 edge rushers, right? Like a rotational edge rusher guy still gets 500, 600 snaps. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they use him, but I suspect he'll be primarily used the way he was in college as an interior guy who can rush the passer because that's what he was very good at. So as a whole, love this pick. I love the trade back to, you know, get a player who, you know, again, maybe I would have rather had Devonte Wyatt. He's good as well. But when you're getting more players, you're typically going to have more value, especially in a draft class like this that is so deep and they need several guys. Like, I think they still can add some defensive linemen. They could still use a guard, I think, although maybe it's just this means Aaron Stinney's the guy with the way that, you know, this first round and first 32 picks have fallen. So if that is the case, you know, I think that's not the end of the world. I do like the value, and, you know, I'm definitely happy that Logan Hall, it's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. We'll see how well it works out. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this pick. What do you guys think about Logan Hall to the Buccaneers? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.